what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations. We continue our outdoor summer conversations this week as we talk about camping. That's right, we're going to be talking about camping on a technology show. But believe it or not, there are some really interesting uses of technology that can help improve your camping experience. Hello and welcome to Brothers in Tech here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson, one of your co-hosts for this show, and the other co-host is across the screen from me, also across the country from me. It is my actual brother in tech, Brian Jackson. How are you today, Brian?
Alan, I am doing well. Across the screen, across the country. Yes, I am. I'm here. I'm here for you.
Because of technology, it does feel like you're right here. So we're just having a conversation. Again, this is about our only time we talk is to talk technology.
Very true.
Because we do our quick little 30-second check-in on each other's families. Everybody's good, Brian?
Yeah, everybody's good. Everybody's good. Your side? Yep.
No, we're all great. We're doing good.
So we're good.
All right. Let's, that is out of the way formality wise. So let's go ahead and talk technology like we always do. This show, we get together and we talk tech, but we don't talk it from a industry news. We don't talk about it from a corporate level or anything big picture. We really talk about personal and home family technology, things you can use and find yourself using possibly on a daily basis, how technology can enhance some things in your life. And it's also, we want to be a resource for those of you that are the family go-to IT people on call, and you know who you are. Those of you that end up getting those phone calls from other family members saying, just bought a new phone and something's not working and I need some help. And if you're that person, welcome to the brotherhood or sisterhood of tech. If you're not one of those people, but you're the ones that are actually making the phone calls to other family members, maybe we're a way to help you become a little more self-reliant in the future. So
No, I mean, I think we're the people that are here for those of you who, may get a call saying your brother told me to do something and it's now broken and now I need you to fix it. Right. So if you're anything like I am, and I get those calls all the time from my family members saying that your brother told us to do one thing, it screwed up. We don't want to tell him that it was bad and make him feel bad. So, please fix it.
See, what's really, I mean, I can, yes, because I get those exact same calls. So
sure you do. Yeah,
that's right. Alternating. Mm-hmm. We are alternating on trying to install things on family members' homes, and half of them go really well, and half of them don't. And we get.
I know you are, but what am I? Yeah, come on, Alan. Yeah.
All right.
Basically, we should just say we're screwing our family over. It's basically what we're doing. Yeah.
Maybe that, or we're sabotaging each other's projects to try to make each other look bad. So,
yeah, maybe
could be a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get on. Every episode we get together the current season, we talk about one aspect of technology in your life. And today, I got to admit, I feel like we're reaching a little bit on where we go with technology, but I need you guys and our special guest here in a moment to educate me on this. And I'll set the topic up here in a minute. But first off, before I do, let's go ahead and bring on our guest. He is back for the third in our series of episodes with him. Everybody just was raving about his involvement in the first two episodes. So we said, you know what, Rob, come on back. You're invited back for the third, and that's where
you made it to round three. So, round three. That's right. Welcome back.
Rob Dickerson is our guest. Rob is works for a cycling apparel company called DeFeet here in Western North Carolina. He's a lifelong cycling enthusiast, but I also know him as a lifelong technology enthusiast as well. And he's been doing some great things at blending technology into his career and his passion interests as well. Rob, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, good. Good to hear.
Rob,
glad to have you back again, Rob.
I mean, Rob, just to show off how techie he is, he decides to, don a really cool pair of headphones for us and, turn down his mood lighting by just, touching his phone and his app. So, yeah, I think he's trying to show off now, Alan, and I'm not sure I like being shown up on our own show here. So,
But I
really want to bring it back on today. Is that?
I got to respect the game. I've got to respect the game. I think he is ready to roll. So.
Yeah.
No, he's rocking a nice pair of the big what are those the Apple what do they call them? The
AirPods Max.
AirPod
Max.
Big,
the
big over the ear headphone things, which I'm very jealous about. Those look nice.
And just for full disclosure here, they are actually pink. So
I was going to say it. I was going to say it if you didn't. Okay, so I'm glad you.
I knew because they're my wife's, which not her fault, but they're actually Karen's.
Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go.
We'll see if we get a response from that.
Right. I know too many Karens to not even try to joke about the term.
Yeah, don't even go there.
That people are using online with Karens. So we're just going to stay clear of that. So, right. So the reason we're talking today is we are talking about camping. Now, that's right. It's outdoors. It's summertime. People getting out. It's warm weather. Camping is something a lot of people like to do. We talked about cycling a few weeks ago. That was kind of one of our last episodes as well. So we're kind of staying in this whole outdoor recreational vibe.
It's summertime.
And camping is something that, a lot of people like to do. I will be in full disclosure. I camp very little. My most routine camping I ever used to do was probably 35 years ago as a scout. Growing up, I did a lot of camping, not as much in the last 30 years, but some occasionally. But what I'm really curious about, I think what we're going to talk about is there is technology involved in camping these days. And it is technology that I don't really know anything about because, again, when I go camping now, it is basically throw a tent in the back, throw a sleeping bag, and that's basically it. And I feel like I'm probably missing out on some interesting things I could be doing. Or if I was camping more, there'd be more ways to incorporate technology. Luckily,
wait. I'm sorry, Alan. You're saying that you're going to add nothing to this episode.
I'm telling you right up front that I'm cashed out.
Which episode are we doing here, Rob? Is this the home lawn maintenance one that he can't contribute anything on, or the cycling one he can't contribute anything on? Which one are we doing today? I can't remember. They all seem to blend together, given that you can't contribute anything. So.
I'm self-admitting this is I'm out of my milieu here, so this is not my area.
At what point does this just become brother in tech?
Well, I'm just thinking, Rob, you and I, we've got a space on this show here. Maybe you and I can kind of get together offline here soon. But anyway, if we have to educate you again, Alan, then we will.
Well, listen, seriously, if you guys want to do this, I got some dinner waiting in the other room. I'm fine to hop out and go. So.
You need to learn. You need to learn, Alan.
I do need to learn.
Yeah.
So technology and camping is what we're going to talk about. And believe it or not, there is some technology in the world of camping these days. Luckily, both of you do quite a bit of camping. Different degrees, different levels of camping, but both of you have considerable more experience. So kind of looking forward to hearing what's going on in the world of camping and how does technology play a role. So let's just kind of play a hypothetical. I'm going to set this up and I'm going to let you guys roll. I'm going to go fix a drink or do something. And I'll try to time it to be back whenever you're done. But, let's say if I was somebody who said, all right, look, I want to get into camping more, but I don't want to just do it, just sleeping bag and tent. I really want to get good stuff. I want to make it a good, comfortable, fun experience. And I want to incorporate a little bit of some higher level technology into my camping. Let's start with the fundamentals, and you guys tell me where we are these days. So, do we still use tents? Is tents still kind of the preferred camping gear technology right now?
Well, I mean, I'll go ahead and say, Rob, you and I can both say we've probably progressed away from tents, haven't we? I'm a van camper. You're now, I think, a van or would you call that I don't know, all-terrain vehicle camper? How is your badass vehicle? What would you call that?
It's a very fancy word. It's they had to develop a new word for it. It's now called overlanding.
Oh, Ooh,
overlanding.
as
All right, so help
opposed
me
to
understand.
underlanding. Okay, all right, good.
Well, you can only do that in Brazil and South America.
I got you.
So help me understand. I'm not, in all seriousness here. Okay, Brian, let's start with you first. You said van camping. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
are we really just talking about you just taking a van and you just sleep in the back of the van? What is van camping?
Yeah,
Down by the river.
yeah. Well, so I mean, van camping is, car. Let's just put it this way: car camping is kind of the standard camping, right? You drive up in your car, you get your stuff out of your car, you put it down at a campsite, you camp, right? But your car is still close by, so you don't have to travel anywhere with it. You don't have to take your backpack into the wilderness, right? That's car camping.
I'm liking everything I'm hearing so far. Go ahead. Yep.
Van camping is similar, except we actually don't get anything out of the van. So we sleep in the van. In my case, we cook in the van, and we do everything else kind of outside. We still use the campsite for recreating, whatever. Sometimes cooking out there, but van camping is for those, I think, that maybe have gotten a little tired of sleeping in a tent and setting up and down a tent. For us, we drive up, find a spot, pop the top on our old, camper van, and we're set up. So I think a lot of people have gone that way. You see a lot of people. You'll hear people say sprinter vans are a big thing now. You see them all over the place, right? Where people are buying vans that are tall enough to stand up in. They've got a bed in the back. They've got their kitchen inside, right? So it's basically they're able to travel and not be kind of. I think the way we looked at it is we wanted not to be hampered by staying at particular types of sites, by setting up our tent every day. My wife and I are people that never have been interested in camping in the same place for a long period of time. We like to go and travel. And what we'll talk about today is some of the things that the technology regarding car camping or tent camping, a lot of it requires an awful lot of setup and takedown, and all of that. So I think that's where a lot of people have moved to the car camping or the van camping, RV camping. RV I think would be kind of the luxury version of that, where you're going and you have everything, you have your showers, you have whatever. But in a van camper, typically you just like to go and pull up and be in cool places and not have a whole lot of setup. So have your house with you.
Gotcha. And then Rob, you mentioned overlanding.
Overlanding. I haven't heard
that.
All right,
so tell us what that is and kind of where you are camping wise right now.
Well, and I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, but I would say the general idea came from the outback, down in Australia, New Zealand, and then over in Africa. A lot of companies had created ways to go in really remote areas. Of course, Australia is this huge country, but the majority of the population lives around the edges of it, and it's the middle that's that has so much to explore. And of course, Africa is very similar. There's so much that's kind of deserted or inhospitable for long periods of time. So there's several companies that had developed pretty amazing vehicles, and a lot of times they'll start with something like a Toyota Land Cruiser, and not like the passenger cruiser that we have. They still actually have a Land Cruiser in those countries that looks largely like a truck, that has different kind of configurations, but they'll throw a unit, if you will, on the back, a metal box essentially, that it has all their gear, and it's got solar panels, it's a tent, it's got power management system, it's got a fridge, freezer, and then typically some cooking, and there's a lot of different layouts. Well, that, of course, it's been around here for years. We used to call them the old pop top campers that people would have on their on the back of their their Ford long bed pickup truck. Well, that those two things have kind of converged here in the U.S., and now you've got a lot of companies. There's one really well-known company that started up in Colorado that made a very kind of in the scheme of things, a very affordable system for like the Toyota Tacoma. It was called Go Fast Campers, and I think they go by GFC. They were a hit, and they were selling out immediately. This is all pre-pandemic, we looked at that. We looked at a bunch of them. We ended up on a company that's actually South African, and it's called Alucab, and it's because the unit is aluminum, so it's ALUCAB. But they make rooftop tents, but then they also make full bolt-on campers that go on the back of your truck. So that's what we did. And we have water on board. We have 2 solar panels on the roof. We have a fridge, freezer. We have a 2-burner gas stove. We have a single burner gas fireplace out of a sailboat in our unit. So, yeah, we've reached the point where I'm not sure we're camping anymore. We're just staying in a small hotel.
That was going to be a little bit my question. Yeah. So we're still camping, like in all this level, even in the van camping and all. This is still considered camping, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alan, I just have to say, I think we invited the right person here, because you notice at the very beginning of his, he said, I don't really know much about this, but I think it started back with the Aztecs back in 1300. And all of that made me completely forget about his pink headphones there for just a short minute, which was awesome. So that was impressive. That was cool. So yeah.
I had the pleasure of seeing Rob's overland vehicle just recently, and it is quite nice. Yeah. So very impressive.
Well, Alan, let me just quickly, because I don't, we're going to talk, I think, about camping, about tent camping, right? Rob and I are going to regress a little bit back to our tent camping days and talk about that. But just briefly, if people say, hey, I haven't camped before, there's lots of different levels of camping, right? And I would actually say, Rob, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say at the minimalist level, it's the backpacker, right? If you're talking someone who goes out in the wilderness, walking, plops down a tent, you've got a backpacker. There's technology for that, right? There are gear for that. Then you got your tent campers, which are typically going to be your car campers. They drive up to a campsite, they pull everything out of their car, and then they tent camp, but they still have their car close by, so they didn't have to carry a lot. So size isn't that important for them at that point. It's not like they have to carry anything, so as long as it can fit in your car, you're good to go. I think you go up from there, you get some people who put, as Rob said, like tent car topper tents, where you can actually add on rooftop tent. You can get a van, you can get a Sprinter, you can get some of these all the way up to an RV. All of them, I think, are still considered camping because you're going away to somewhere else to habitate for a while. But I think it's important.
That's not a hotel or something.
Exactly. That you're outside. Not correct. You're outdoors. Yeah. You're taking somewhat advantage of an outdoors, even though a lot of us are, not quite in the elements as much. So I think it's for most people, it's important to kind of jump into what is a car camper. What's the car camping equipment, right? I want to go out and take my kids camping for the first time. What do I need?
Let's talk about, let's talk about the gear that if you're driving a car up to a campsite and you're going to set up a tent, the most kind of basic, straightforward camping that's easy to do for families or anybody else. So, all right. So back to my original question. We still use tents, right? That's still, still all right.
We do.
Is there anything that has advanced in the world of tents from the ones that I remember back in the 80s that I used, and I probably still use? I think the ones I have in my closet are still ones I probably used back in the 80s. What's kind of the latest? What's some new things about tents that would be helpful to know?
You want to jump on that?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I've seen now, like everything, there's a price point for what level you want to go to.
Sure, yeah.
And I think if you're a novice and you're not sure you'll even like this, then it's best to do something, either borrow something that someone else has and kind of try it out and get an idea if you even like it. We started out again 2 years ago, kind of camping. My wife and I, our daughter was off to school, and we started with my old kind of 2-person bike packing, doing some camping on the bike. And so we had a 2-person. It's really snug. It's, it has to be your significant other because you're right on top of each other. Not a lot of room for your gear inside, but it worked. But we were technically car camping. We went up to the mountains of North Carolina. We paid for a camping spot, for 2 nights, and we drug everything out of the Subaru and threw it there on the ground. We quickly decided, you know what, we like this, but it's hard, especially if we want to bring the dog. And so we soon thereafter bought a nice 4-person tent. Now, since we thought this is something we were going to get into, we bought a nice 4-man tent, not one of the tall ones, but one that could potentially be backpacked with. So we tried to keep it still on that lighter, smaller side. But it was about a $400 4-man tent, which in the scheme of tents is about midway in the price point. And it's great. And it's more than suitable for 2 to 3 adults with all their gear. We would take it. And one nice thing about it is it allowed us to add things like a big air mattress. So we got a camping air mattress, not your air mattress from the house, but a insulated camping air mattress. And therefore we had this nice, soft, comfortable bed to sleep on with our individual sleeping bags. And it's a double sleeping pad too, which is really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
all right. Nice.
So
Yeah.
Well, I think you asked about what's changed with tent. I mean, I was actually pretty impressed with. The tents themselves from 20 years ago are not dramatically different in terms. They're still the flexible poles that extend out that you put through to kind of hoist it up. I will say one thing that's kind of really advanced a lot is they'll actually have different compartments in them now, which is kind of nice. Some of the tents aren't just a big open room. Some of them are 2 rooms, and if you're someone who has kids and wants to be able to divide who's where, or having, males and females in different compartments, those are helpful. Sure. Or if you have a dog that you want to keep separate and not, have kind of taking over, or getting certain things wet. So my wife and I, we have one tent that does have I'll call it like a little entryway. Right when you go in, there's one little segmented off area. And that's because we're in the Northwest. All of our stuff gets wet. And that's kind of our wet area. It's like coming into a house where you have a mud room, right? Where you're able to just get rid of all your muddy stuff before you get into the actual sleeping part of your tent. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. When you're looking at a tent, think about how you're going to use it, where are you going to use it, and make sure, because there is nothing worse with kids. There's nothing that's going to make you hate camping more than getting everything wet, right? And having just a horrible experience, getting everything dirty and realizing that I can't stay clean, right? And there's something about camping where you want to get a little dirty, but what you don't want is, if you're at the beach, you don't want sand everywhere, because that's going to be a horrible experience. You don't want, if you're, out exploring muddy areas, for the mud to get everywhere. So to me, I think the really nice part is being able to keep some of those things separate. And whether that's having something over your tent for like the rain flap that you probably remember that, Alan. It hasn't been that long, right? You have a rain flap that you can put over your tent to be the waterproof part. And then if you take that off, obviously the air can get in, right? Maybe getting one of those that actually has a further extension so that you can have a bike, you can have your muddy shoes, all of that stuff can still stay out of the rain, but not be inside your tent. So I think that's one of the things that's really improved a lot in tent technology.
Okay. So, all right. Still sounds relatively similar to maybe how it's been. What about sleeping bags? Is that something that's changed? I mean, I know I've seen the couple of times I've gone to go take a look at sleeping bags for some things I attended, all the different ratings and different kind of material and technology involved in kind of keeping you, I guess, warmer. Is that kind of the deal? What are sleeping bags like nowadays?
Well, I would say warmer, but not too warm. And I think that's a really important piece, that you can spend a lot of money on sleeping bags, because you can get some that are rated to be in the Arctic, right? To where you'd actually keep the thermal level quite high. If I would advise anyone, if you're going to get into buying a new sleeping bag, realize that thicker doesn't necessarily mean better. And smaller doesn't necessarily mean better. I mean, actually could mean better. It doesn't mean better for you. If Rob's going to go out and do some backpacking or maybe some bike camping, he wants something really, really small so that it doesn't take a lot of space, but still has a pretty good thermal rating. So maybe it has goose down in it or something like that can be a good thermal conductor, but not very thick, right? I remember, it's funny, Alan, I went back to our parents as they were moving out of their house. And one of the things they gave me was our old sleeping bag that we had from when we were kids. Super, super thick, right? Incredibly comfortable, like felt on the inside, or kind of just incredibly wool-like on the inside. And I remember this thing is huge, right? And I'm sure it's completely comfortable to be in, but you can get that same heat level or same level of comfort with something really, really thin now. And so that's where the technology is making it smaller, making it so that you can carry it further, making so that you don't need something massive in order to get the heat reduction. Now, realize the thinner you go also means part of that's because you're going to probably want some sort of camping pad, something to go under you so that you're not laying directly on the roots and rocks and things like that.
So like Rob was mentioning, kind of the air mattress type of thing, the camping air mattress and some other different pads you normally are putting underneath your sleeping bags nowadays, right?
Right.
Yeah. A lot of these bag companies too have gone to some hybrid systems. So there's, not only do you have different insulation, so the insulation can be, some type of poly, branded poly type spun or blown poly, and it doesn't compress quite as well as down. Down, believe it or not, now is available in a waterproof down, which sounds silly, but they're able to basically waterproof it using kind of the idea behind atomizing like a waterproof element in steam with the down. And I watched a video on how they did it. It's pretty amazing, but it makes it not completely waterproof, but it will keep the fibers with loft, even if they get some dampness. Whereas before, the pros of a down bag were, you can pack it really small. A 30-degree bag could be very tiny, but the downside was if it got wet, it was useless. As soon as it got wet, and that was why poly sometimes was better for a wetter climate. But now they've got some neat stuff. But another thing that's interesting is that on my ultralight bike packing tent and bag setup, I actually have it's a single-sided sleeping bag. So only the top is insulated with waterproof down. The bottom uses an insulated pad that is inflatable that slides into a sleeve in the bottom. So it's really neat. The cool thing is that you don't fall off your pad anymore. Your pad's locked in underneath you. And then the other thing is you don't have this redundancy of material, to carry around. You're carrying the least amount of material you need.
Yep. That's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So sleeping bags have progressed quite a bit. I'll tell you, because Brian, I still think I've got one of the big, fat, bulky ones that you were describing.
The nylon blue on the outside with the red, felt on the inside.
I've still got one of those up in the closet. So yes, sir, I do.
So here's one more thing, Alan, is that now a lot of people are buying sleeping bags not to be in a tent. And I guess we should have mentioned this earlier when you said are tents the same. There's a lot of people that are camping in a hammock now. I mean, hammocks have that technology is great to where you can I've got a hammock that balls up to the size of lunch bag, right? And I can stretch the hammock out. The hammock's large enough that it actually wraps over me. So if I wanted to just go out and, go in my kayak and pull over somewhere and throw up a hammock, I could have a small sleeping bag. Now, the difference is a lot of those sleeping bags, some of them actually come up over your head. So they'll actually put a hood up over your head, and you think that's where you're going to be out in the elements. So maybe you're in a hammock, and you do want to have a little protection, for your head as well. Whereas in a tent, you don't really need that, right? So
sure,
yeah. So I think there's lots of cool little advances with sleeping bag. But going back to the beginning, don't go and buy the best level of heat protection or cold protection, because you may never need it, right? I mean, don't buy the one that someone can use in the Arctic, because you're going to spend a lot of money on it. And look at the temperature range, look at where you are in the world. If you're camping in North Carolina, well, you've got a certain temperature range that you're going to deal with. You're camping in Canada, there's a different temperature range. So realize you can spend a lot of money on these things, but figure out where your range is.
So I think I got a good handle on, the tent, sleeping bag, and kind of material or thing to sleep on. But let's get a little more techie, guys. I mean, I got to feel like there's probably some cooler new gadgets, accessories, tools, add-ons, something that have been rolled out in recent years or over the years that really kind of incorporate more technology into camping. I got to feel like there is. So tell me about some of the cooler things you guys think are available for people who get into camping that could help, enhance their experience right now if they were to go camping.
Well, Rob, let me
Rob, go first.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
What were you going to say, Brian?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, why don't we talk a little bit about solar? Because to me, solar is the way technology has really helped with camp. Because again, camping, the goal oftentimes is getting away from the world, right? Oftentimes you go and find these great campgrounds that maybe don't have power. They may not have cell service. They may not have, lots of different amenities. So to me, solar has become something that has really advanced quite a bit. Rob, do you have solar on your, what is it? Overgrounding,
Overlanding? Yeah.
Overlanding. Thank you.
Yeah. I've got solar charging the battery in the truck.
Nice.
But what's happened in one company that I know about, because we actually have one of their little battery pack things. And I say little, this is a big one. It's like a 200 amp hour, battery reserve made for like car camping. And they have a briefcase solar panel. So it's a 100-watt solar panel that I can prop up somewhere and charge this battery pack during the day. And then, of course, we can use that at night to power lights around the campground, or if it's hot, we could power a fan in the tent if we wanted to. It's really a neat idea. I happened to be on their site the other day looking for a component to their kit for our van at work, and I noticed they have a new solar panel for a backpack, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's strap sewn. It's got 4 little D-ring hooks on each corner. It's about the size of a notebook, maybe 8.5 by 11 or so. But it's a 5-watt solar charger that straps onto any backpack and charges up your phone. And I thought,
Nice.
That's pretty cool. So I could see, you're out, you're camping. You don't necessarily want to go run and put everything in the car and charge it up. You just want to keep it charged while you're camping, and that would be a cool way to kind of keep your phone, or maybe a radio or something. Who knows? Something small.
Well, and on that note, Alan, if we talk about the things that we have seen, and I'm sure, Rob, you've seen quite a bit of this as well, but after going through lots of camping experiences, oftentimes I'll see the mishaps that people make, and you'll see the person who comes up and runs some power off of their car, the cigarette lighter, and is running different things. Maybe it's their radio or something like that. And sure enough, at the end of the camping trip, they can't start the car, right? So having another source of power, and unfortunately, power is important to us these days. And having a cell phone, whether or not you actually use a cell phone, but at least having a cell phone that's charged for safety reasons, for the ability to be able to maybe figure out which hike you're going to go on, those sorts of things can be helpful. So I'll also mention, Alan, if you said, what are the things that I absolutely think someone has to have technology-wise to go start camping? I think light is a really important one. Having a good, maybe a lantern to go at your campsite so that you're not tripping going from, car to tent or to the bathroom, whatever.
And what's the best options on lanterns? Is it?
Well, I'm a big fan of, nowadays they've got these really cool inflatable lanterns, and all it is, it looks like an old, I don't know, like just like a floaty that a kid used to wear on their arms, right? You just inflate it with air. It's got a solar panel on the top of it. It's got a little LED light on the inside. So you inflate this thing, and the solar is powering it. You click it on, and it provides light. So it's a clear kind of balloon type thing.
But because it's fantastic. In air, but because it's in an inflatable thing, and it's got a container around it, the light actually gets
It
spread out
expands quite a bit,
kind of a
right?
lot
Yeah.
more.
You put one of those and you can compress it down into something that can go easily into a pocket. So I think those are fantastic, right? They
That is pretty
last
cool.
forever. You can you can have them right when you get there and be able to at least light up different parts of your site. There's actually one that I was looking at going into this episode. It's a little expensive, it's like $70, but there was one that is like a 2-in-1 that the solar on top will also charge a little battery that it has so that you can then charge your phone from it. So you're getting a lantern, but you're also getting a backup power,
some power supply for your
boost, something
phone
like that.
or
Yeah,
device like
maybe
that.
like a radio, something like that. So,
Okay, that's
so to
pretty
me,
cool.
I
like
love
that.
those. I mean, you can headlamp is another one. I would absolutely invest in a headlamp. I think those are the greatest things, since having a flashlight in your hand. Well, a lot of times if you've got kids, you're maybe walking them and you don't want to be, fiddling with the flashlight. Get a headlamp, so that we used to think that was only for serious hikers. They're great rechargeable headlamps. You put it on, walk to the bathroom with that so that wherever you're looking has light. That was one of the best purchases we made, is to give us each a headlamp, and so that we have the ability to light up our way. So.
Okay, I'm liking the whole discussion on lighting. That's really, really cool stuff.
Yep.
Rob, what's a tool, accessory, or something that you think is really useful and cool to have for camping?
Well, there's a couple of things. There's one I want to talk about in a minute that's just kind of crazy. I just accidentally stumbled on it years ago, but I don't own it. So, but the essential, I think, is maybe a water purifier of some sort.
Okay.
Because I think if you're car camping, it's a lot easier to carry, kind of pre-sorted water, where either you bought bottles or you filled up a big container to bring with you. In our truck, we have a 13-gallon water tank that we can put, water in and take with us. But one of the things I think is pretty cool, and I actually didn't own this, but I was with someone. We were cycling. We did a big ride, and it was hot, and we were running out of water. But there was a lot of water sources. But I'm not always great about wanting to drink right out of a stream. You just never know.
Yep. Sure.
And his name's Kevin Hessler. He's the buyer for one of the bike shops up in Asheville, North Carolina, called Motion Makers. And he had this cool setup, and I believe it was from MSR, which they've been in the business for a long time. But it was basically a bag that he filled with water that had a filter on the other end, and basically filling it up and then kind of forcing the bag with the water in it through the filter system into our water bottles. So it took 15 minutes probably to do 2 of them. But he filled up our water bottles, with, water right out of the stream. It's really nice. I mean, these filters, I think not only carbon, I think they might be like carbon ceramic. So they're kind of a dual sediment and impurity filter all in one.
Well, and what's cool about that too is, even for any kind of camping purpose, I mean, taking water is like one of the heaviest things you can be carrying around with you if you're going anywhere. If you're camping anywhere far away from a vehicle where you have stuff available to you, just that's the heaviest thing I can imagine you'd have on your body. So to be able to know that you don't have to do that, you can just obviously be near a stream or lake or anywhere else where you happen to be. That's great. That's really, that really makes it easy. So,
I think anytime you're going to go off trail or off, away from the campsite, you're going to go a little bit off the grid. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Water purification is key. And they make some as small as, something that looks like a little tube where you suction up water, and then, on the other end, you can put it in a water bottle and it will purify. So I think that's really important. Don't get gutsy and think, well, the stream looks clean. And that's not where you want to be hiking out in the wilderness and have some stomach flu come up just because you drank some bad water. So I think that's a great move. So
are there other couple of other cool tips, tools, accessories, things that you feel like are really elevating the camping experience these days?
Well, this one little thing I was going to mention I
Sure.
just discovered by accident was this thing called Bear Watch. Now, this is mainly geared towards backpackers in, probably Pacific Northwest, Rockies, Canada, places where you have grizzlies, because here we have black bears. They are dangerous, but usually they'll scurry away if they hear noise or whatever. We wear a bell on our walking stick when we walk and carry bear spray with us. But grizzly is it's a whole other world. And there's a company that has developed what essentially looks like a set of tent poles, individual tent poles that are pre-wired with 2 cables between each pole to put around your tent at night. And it has a battery pack with it that outputs, it's 10,000 volts, and it's a half a joule.
Yeah.
Wow.
But essentially, I think it works off the principle of like a flash in a camera, but in as a electric fence, essentially. So if it gets touched, it produces this massive shock, and evidently it has a pretty decent recovery time. Overnight. Like if it gets hit, it can come back and hit again. And it packs in something about the size of a camping pillow. So maybe
I was going to ask, how small?
Yeah, it's pretty small, pretty neat. I don't own it. I've never tried it, but it weighs 3 pounds, so it's not light, necessarily. But grizzlies aren't fun. So
if you're camping in an area where that's a concern, I mean, that's absolutely a great option to have around you there. So it's like a little electric fence. You're basically just building a perimeter around your campsite. And when you turn it on, obviously anything that crosses over that threshold is going to get shocked, right?
Yeah, it looks like it ends up being about a 30 to 35 inch high pole, system. With kind of brightly colored cables in 2 positions.
So it is easy for like human beings to see, like for us to see and be careful of and all that. But
it appears in the literature and everything I see. I mean, although I could see me getting up and walking into it in the night. So,
that would be my concern. But it almost it needs some sort of a warning to us on our phone or something like that if we're getting close to it.
And it's a Canadian company, but it looks like it's $250 US. So
that's not bad for that type of system.
No.
I tell you, for peace of mind, right? My wife and I have camped in many, many places that are, when you go in, they have bear boxes where you have to put your food in the bear box, and you have to, always have bear spray and have your bear bell. And so peace of mind, that would be very helpful. Rob, I did want to ask, did it say anything about, is it simply just a shock, or does it actually make a sound as well? Do you know?
You know what? I don't remember. It did not say anything that I recall. I think it just shocks. And I'm guessing that when something like that pops, 10,000 volts, you're probably going to
hear it. Yeah, I'm hoping. Because it's one thing I don't like about grizzlies is pissing them off. So I'd really like to not have them get pissed off and then me not know that it's happening. So it'd be nice if there was some sort of noise. But that's pretty.
You slept right through it.
That's right. Yeah. Well.
Hey, Brian, did you have another anything?
Well, actually, I wanted to go back just a second because there's something I meant to mention about tents, Alan. And this is from personal experience, not knowing about this when I first started camping many years ago. But make sure that when you buy your tent, that you also buy the footprint that goes with your tent. And so what a footprint is basically a tarp that goes underneath the tent that is perfectly cut out for the size of your tent. And a lot of times they're extra. Now, of course, you don't have to buy a footprint. You can get a tarp and you can cut it out. What I would say, though, is this was counterintuitive to me, and it completely, I paid for it too, is that when we first went camping, we said, we don't need the footprint. We've got a tarp. So we put a tarp, and of course, we made the tarp a little wider than we needed for the tent. made sure the tent sat on it. Well, in the Northwest, when the rain comes, I didn't think to myself, I thought, well, I need the tent totally protected, so the footprint needs to be wider. Well, the footprint being wider means the water gets on that wide part and goes underneath your tent. And sure enough, we woke up with puddles in our tent because, of course, if water is underneath, no matter how waterproof it is, if it sits in water for a long time, it's going to seep in. So easy ways to get the footprint that comes with the tent or comes made for the tent. So you put that down first. You put the tent on top of it. That's your waterproof your barrier, and it won't let the water in. So any water that streams down your tent doesn't slide underneath your tent into a puddle. So that's something I would just say. It's not technology necessarily. It's just that they make them perfectly made. And again, the new tents are all funky designs, funky configurations. They're not the square like we used to have. It's, all sorts of weird shapes. So having a footprint that's exactly made for your tent is a really nice thing to have. So
I'm hearing kind of so far, summary, what we're hearing is tents, have evolved, but mainly in kind of their layouts and just different capabilities on the inside that you could have. Sleeping bags, have really gotten lighter, smaller, and more cold resistant, but there are different levels, and you can kind of purchase and spend the kind of money into it based on the kind of environment you're going to be camping in. And then the things I'm hearing are kind of essentials, lighting. I think if you're going to be away from like a car, having water purification, a way to get water if you're away from your campsite for long. Then we talked about a couple safety and security things too. Is there anything else that's kind of a critical that technology has really played a role in that we feel like, or is that kind of covers everything? Yeah, Rob?
I have one last thing, and I just thought about it. A couple of companies make them. I think that one, it was called Spot. It's now been bought by Garmin, but it is a device that you pay a subscription to. It's satellite based. You can connect it via Bluetooth to your phone, or you can use the device independently on its own. It gives you a way to send a distress call. So if you were in an area without cellular coverage, it would allow you to get a message. Now, I know with Spot, the small Spot Mini or whatever for Garmin, if you pair it with your phone, it'll actually allow you to send a text via satellite to someone, and you can do, I believe they call it breadcrumbs, where it'll send someone kind of your geolocation information on it. I think you can set up kind of when it does it. So not a bad idea, to have something like that. And, I don't know if you guys remember the old TechCrunch show back in the day, the old, it was, they had an editor die because they broke down in a snowstorm in the Pacific Northwest. They got lost on a road, had no way to get out. His family survived. They found the family in the car, but he went to look for help and he got lost. They found him less than 40 yards from the car, but he was behind a bluff, behind a little ridge line. So, but he froze to death. Just think, if he had something like that, I don't even know if this existed, that would have been a way for him to signal SOS for help and had someone rescue them, and I think he had 3 kids and a wife he, left, so.
Wow. Jeez. Well, I mean, that's great. I do think, I know I'm someone that the times I've gone out camping, I have not taken as much of the safety and security measures as I probably needed to. And I think that's important to remember. And of course, that's where technology really kind of keys in, is that there's so many different ways to tap into signals and make sure even in a place without cell phone signal, there's still a way to get a message out, a signal out in some way, shape, or form. So that's a good call on that, Rob.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And then Alan, I would just say, just on the other side, there's tons of really cool apps out right now to find good campgrounds. If you're someone who wants to camp in maybe a little bit more cush, situations, there's apps called like Hip Camp is a really cool one. If you go and people offer up their backyards for camping, if you happen to be in a place like I am right now where camping has been full ever since camping opened for the summer. Everybody books everything up for the rest of the summer. So sometimes you're kind of looking for creative ways to find places to camp. So there's lots of cool apps out there. Look for them just to be able to research. What's really great is many of those camping sites, you can actually take a look at the site prior to going. So you can pull up a picture and say, oh, okay, that's where my car is going to be right next to my tent, which is awesome. Or that one is all concrete and all rock and I don't want to sleep there, that sort of thing. So take advantage of the technology of getting some of the apps or on the websites to be able to research in advance, I think is a really helpful thing. So
great. Good call, guys. Well, I'm not going to go camping this weekend. But it's not of any fault of all the information you've shared. I just not ready to get back into it yet.
You're gonna wait until your bear perimeter arrives. Is that
right?
I've already ordered that just
everything.
now. Okay,
I've already ordered everything you guys mentioned, and it should be here on Amazon the next week or two. No, this is great. I think what we're basically telling people is, look, any aspect of our lives, there are technology, and technology is in some way, shape, or form involved in helping things advance. Camping, you would think, would be the least technology needed pastime, but yet there are some great ways that technology does play a role. And I think it sounds like too, from having availability of power through solar availability, which is obviously a lot more prominent than it was in the years past. The safety security measures we're talking about, and just some of the enhancements with tents and sleeping bags and lighting, all of those things can really help just make for an enjoyable experience, but also a safer experience too, which I think is great also. So very, very cool. Awesome. This is great. Thanks, guys. Very, very helpful information. So, and I know there's a lot of things we probably did not touch on that are some other tools or accessories that could help with your camping experience. So if you're listening and you've got some other suggestions or things that maybe if we do a revisit on this in the future that we might want to mention, you can certainly let us know your thoughts on that. So Brian, again, what is the way for people to reach us if they want to talk to us about this?
Well, they can send us an email at info@themesh.tv. And if you happen to listen to last week's episode, Alan and I kind of jumped into the mailbag and pulled out some comments, some that were positive, some that we're going to try to forget and pretend really didn't happen, because obviously they were a little delusional, thinking that Alan ran this thing. But if you send a note to info@themesh.tv, tell us how you use technology, or maybe the tech that gets you away from other technology in the wilderness. We'd love to hear it. So info@themesh.tv.
Great. And Rob, thanks for joining us. Do you think you might be available for one last recording with us here for the next week?
Is that an invite because you didn't have any other takers, or do you genuinely want my company?
I seriously got no responses, Alan, from any of the people I tried.
No, Rob, of course. We wanted you to join us for another recording. So, wow. No, seriously, this is, Rob, we say that when somebody does their 3 obligatory episodes with us, the reward is you get to join us for the 4th and final recommendations episode, which is the fun one.
Yes,
it's the fun one. This is the one where we do our Brothers in Tech suggestions, and that'll be our next episode. As we are, awesome. The 3 of us are going to give our Brothers in Tech suggestions, each of us bringing a gadget, tool, website, app, whatever it may be, anything technology driven to recommend to the rest of us. And we don't know what we're recommending. We're all coming in blind with our suggestions. So we will see what we have to share next week on that episode. But again, awesome. Thanks for listening to this. I know it's kind of an interesting topic talking about camping on a tech show, but as you heard, there is some cool ways to use technology in your camping experience. I hope this helped. And we will look forward to talking to everybody next time for our Brothers in Tech Suggestions episode coming up in the next week. Rob, again, Dickerson, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Rob.
Again, Rob's with DeFeet Cycling Apparel Company, located in Hickory or outside of Hickory, North Carolina. And I definitely say check them out. It's defeet.com, right? DEFEET.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of a play on words. And
nice.
yeah,
I like it.
Got a new website launching in a few days. So
Ooh.
And I'm sure you, Mr. Dickerson, are having some big role to play in that. So you deal with the e-commerce online, you deal with the website, you're dealing with media and everything else for this company. So that's great.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot
that
of
is
fun.
defeat.com, right?
You got it.
DEFEET.com.
DEFEET.com.
Nice.
That's it. Check it out, especially if you're into cycling. That's the place to check out some great stuff and what they're making and doing, especially all of it right here in Western North Carolina, which is really cool for us too. So, all right,
Well,
listen,
thanks.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you all next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.